Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. This is the third episode of Football Then and Now the Week, and it's episode 35. Loads of content, just the way it's worked out this week. And I have got a returning guest, a man who's been on many times on this show. He's come in again, he's filling in for Chris, and it's none other than Spurs fan John Scott back on the show for episode 35. How are you doing, John?
All well, my friend, all well. Bit chilly down here and stuff, but all good, mate, all good.
Is it, yeah?
Yeah, I've been feeling it, mate. I think it's a sign of age as well. You know what I mean? It's like weather starts to mean something now.
They say it more inland, it's colder. Obviously, me being on the coast here,
Sure.
A lot of people say that, you know, but last night, I think we'll start off with England and Greece, and it couldn't have gone any better, mate. 3-0 to England, a good performance. A lot of players dropping out. Ian Wright was going mad about Harry Kane, actually, because he was moaning about the players that had pulled out. But I'm trying to look at it from Harry Kane's perspective, John. You know, he is Mr. England, isn't he? You know, you always play for your country, don't you? What's your stance? Before we talk about the game, what do you think about his comments about people dropping out? What's your psyche with it?
Well, what was it, like 9? Was it something like 9 that there were pullouts, which is quite a high number. And I was trying to think, like, I was trying to look at other countries to see if they'd had like similar problems. It appeared not. So it did seem like a bit of an our issue rather than just like an international issue, because let's be honest, there's a lot of games at the moment for international football, and being a club fan, I don't know about you, Stu, but every time these come along, I'm just like, do we have to? Do you know what I mean? It's like one of those things, because it just seems to disrupt everything, and they're coming around very fast. So, you know, you can only imagine that the clubs and, you know, everybody there, the players, they're probably thinking something similar. It is a bit odd to have that many players not want to turn up. I mean, Lee Carsley's last games, does that have anything to do with it? The fact that Tuchel's not going to be there till the new year. Would they have had that many dropouts if Tuchel was in there, Stu? I doubt it. I think they'd all want to be there. But then, yeah, I know a lot of people are going about Jack Grealish, but Jack Grealish not exactly been playing for Man City. So I think he would have wanted to be there if he could be, to sort of stamp a place whilst nobody else is about. So it is a difficult one. I get where Harry Kane's coming from, but then at the same time, the Bundesliga's maybe not as intense as what the Premier League is. And I'm guessing that a lot of these clubs are trying to protect their players a bit more. But, you know, you have to take them for their word, don't you, Stu? I mean, their medical teams are the ones that come out, and I know that the England national, they can inquire a bit more, but maybe that was already done.
I was trying to look at it from his point of view as well, because I was kind of agreeing with Ian Wright. I was of the thinking he shouldn't have done that. But then you know, you take a step back, don't you, and you think about the whole thing, and it was just like, hold on a minute here. Maybe he has got a point. I think Braithwaite's had to come back anyway because he's got a nickel again. He can't get right. He can't get right at all, him, at the moment. I don't know what's going on with him. It's a tricky one, but they made a good account of themselves last night. And Curtis Jones, you know, he was sitting further back than he has been for Liverpool, and to get a goal later on, good performance from him. I really enjoyed watching him last night.
Yeah, it was a couple of like decent showings. I thought they'd be better just because it was going to be more players that are a little bit more hungrier anyway. Do I think Tuchel will follow that on and sort of, you know, say, well, if those other players didn't want to turn up for this, should we be picking them for my first squad? I don't necessarily think last night will have any great impact to Tuchel in his plans that he's probably already got, even though there was a lot of newer players. I just got this feeling he's probably not going to be too fussed about. I mean, again, no disrespect to Greece, but these are not, you know, he's going to be thinking about competition and that World Cup. He's not really going to be, you know, just looking at these type of games. But yeah, a couple of good performances. Obviously, you know, Ollie Watkins, another, you know, good goal for him as well, you know, getting a start. And as you say, Stu, that goal from Curtis Jones was a very nice touch, wasn't it, at the end? Like, a lot of confidence to do that. Yeah.
Beautiful. He knew where that was going. His head His head was in the position where he wanted it. You know what I mean? You could see where that was going when they played the replay. Nice move leading up to that goal. Do you know what I mean? And Bellingham for the first goal, that onto the wing to Madueke, you know, or Madueke, however we want to pronounce it, of course. But look, it was good. I enjoyed seeing players getting a chance that don't necessarily get a chance. I know we've had the people pulling out as well, but yeah, it was good. It was good all in all. But just a side note, I don't know if this is a load of bollocks or not. They were saying there was 2 Portaloos in the away last night. Did you see that?
I heard rumor. Yeah, I saw some bits on it, which doesn't sound too great, does it?
Are we believing that, John? Because anything can
I haven't.
any photo can be put up in the modern world, but yeah, for 3,500 fans, 2 Portaloos.
Yeah, good luck with that. That's all I can say, mate. I wouldn't have liked to have been in that company if that was the case. But yeah, I've not heard anything more. But if that was the case, blimey.
It takes away from the performance. You know, they've won a game.
Yeah.
There's negativity, isn't there? Because you know, there's a balls up with toilets for the away fans. But yeah, I tell you what, as well, Pickford. I think it was saves. You know, you wanted to see him make. You know, but he's had there. He was good on the weekend against West Ham. You know, he single-handedly kept us in the game. He's looked good. Shot stopping again, though, John.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever knocked Pickford shot stopping. What they've knocked is his decision making, haven't they? What did you think?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's been someone, but then again, it's like, you know, you look who's behind him, and you don't see a lot of competition really. If we're being honest, like Ramsdale, for the most part of last season, was not playing, and he was always sort of, you know, you'd almost have penciled him in as going to be the next step up, if you will. Of course, we've got other goalkeepers in and around, like Nick Pope, you know, from Newcastle, but you know, his age is a bit against him. So you know, what will Tuchel do when he comes in? Has he got a very specific way that he wants a goalkeeper to play? Does Pickford meet those criterias? Only time will tell. But I would imagine in that first sort of team that he puts out, Stu, that he's probably that'll be the one going forward for a long time. Let's put it that way. I've just got a feeling that if he doesn't fancy Pickford from the get-go, that might be the end of it, so to speak. But you know, we have to see what he's going to come up with. But I think Pickford done all right. You know, he's always been a solid hand. It's just every now and then, much like, you know, I can even say the same with Vicario at Spurs. You know, it'll cost you a game. That's the problem. Just a couple of seconds decision, and it's it's all over.
Lawrence there, Lazar, good day. All greetings from Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. Hello, mate. What time is it there now, Lawrence?
Yeah, I was going to say, blimey.
Crikey Moses, son, fair play for watching us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Another thing I picked up on, this non-left-sided fullback starting a game, and that's no disrespect to Rico Lewis. Why did he not just start Lewis Hall from the get-go? That's what I was thinking. Lewis Hall's been in form, of course. He's been playing well for Newcastle. This has been the issue for a long time, hasn't it? You know, with Luke Shaw being out, you know, it would be Luke Shaw's spot, wouldn't it, as it were? What are your feelings of playing a non-left-sided player on the left side?
Yeah, I think it's just it's almost become like a bit of a trend, isn't it, in the Premier League? Like you'll see Pep do it a lot. But the way he's, you know, when they're in possession, they go to a 3. So it's almost like you're playing 3 centre backs. So it makes kind of somewhat sense to have a right-footed player over there because they're not necessarily going to get down the wing. And you'll see Kyle Walker just bobbing on. And I think, you know, even back in the Euros, like England were trying to do that, but not very well. Let's put it that way. It was terrible for most of the time. Whenever anyone else was at it, me personally, I'd go, rather than a name, I'd rather go with who's naturally positioned, who goes in next for me. And it's not just Hall. I've seen other players get ignored in the past, Stu, like Rico Henry, Tyreek Mitchell is another one. And they've all had spells where I thought they deserve a call-up. They deserve to be there. They're naturally left-sided. Why are they not getting games? But, yeah, for whatever reason, Southgate never fancied them. And yes, it's kind of a similar thing, but it does look a little bit unbalanced for me, especially when we don't have always somebody like an Anthony Gordon in front of them. And if you looked back in the Euros, us playing a right-footed player out on the wing as well as left back as well, you are really lump-sided, aren't you?
It's just the point. It's being brought up all the time, isn't it? But again, he realised, Carsley obviously realised, but then it meant that Konza had to go off, and Konza and Gay were doing relatively well before that. So I was a bit, lads. I didn't agree with that in a sense. It's kind of like, well, but he's the manager, up until the Ireland game, of course. So that's just what he does, isn't it? But I will say this, he has tried people, and he's tried different people, in the 5 games so far, hasn't he? What do you think about that, with him trying people?
Yeah, I mean, he's in a position now as well. Like, I think he goes into these 2 games, he knows he's out. After he's going to hopefully go back to what he was doing or whatnot. So I feel like the pressure was really off. It was almost like whatever he does, not really going to matter at this point. Tuchel, I don't think Tuchel's in the ear, sort of saying do this, do that. I think for Carsley, it was almost, might as well just see what I can come up with, because he knows he's not going to be within a job. So yeah, he's giving players a bit of a run out. But yeah, for me, couple of good additions. I think sometimes when you keep, the only problem is when you do field newer players, I always feel there's that issue of like, do you almost have too much of a pool of players then to sort of look into especially when Tuchel comes in. But better to have more than less. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. That's one plus I would say about his 5 games so far, definitely. Lewis Young, hi all. Hello, Lewis. You got Croatia tonight. Any predictions for me and John from Scotland, Croatia? That'll be good. That'll be a good game. McTominay in form, of course, for Napoli. Mr. Scotland, as it were. Lawrence did send some more messages in here. Not sleeping at night is overrated at 38. You need your beauty sleep, mate. I'm 38 as well. You need your beauty sleep. Tell you that now. And yeah, it's 1:15 there in the morning. So absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you think Wales are going to get on? They've got Turkey tomorrow. I'll just ask you that before we go into our nostalgia portion.
I mean, I've been watching a couple of your games as well. I'm hoping that it seems a bit sort of naive, but I just hope that they sort of just keep discipline. I think that's the thing with Wales at this point, just try and get the result above anything else, I think, at this point. But it'll be a tough game, no doubt about it. It will be hard, but hopefully you guys, in terms of who's coming up, Stu, who would you sort of say at the minute, like in terms of younger players that, we should be looking at? Because I guess at the moment you're in that transitional period still of sort of blooding some new players, but who's the standouts at the minute for you?
Jordan James has got potential. I think he's injured. I think he was injured for the last matches. I think he might still be out. And I think a lot of the thing was Joe Allen would come in and he could kind of mentor him as well. Bellamy's got a good connection with Joe Allen. I'd say Jordan James, he's gone over to France to go and play. I can see him, he'd be in the Premier League eventually. He's good, you can see it. But again, it's giving him time. But he's the one for me out of everybody. I would say he's the one that, everyone wants to do well. Again, he's got time. Yeah, he's got time. But again, what I would say, I think we're going to be heavily reliant on Brennan, of course. He's been so good for you guys at Spurs. And Harry Wilson. Harry Wilson's been great. It's them two. They've got to carry it. But we don't score mass amounts of goals. I was saying this to Brady on episode 33. Even when Bale was in the team, we didn't score a lot of goals, so they've got to find goals from somewhere. But Turkey away, John, and they made a good account of themselves in the tournament in the summer. It's going to be tough, isn't it?
Yeah, and they've got a couple of very exciting young players. One of the guys, I forget the name, is at Real Madrid at the minute, is certainly a very high potential. So yeah, it'll be a tough game, especially in Turkey as well. It's not an easy place to go. I think when you're doing it, so
I think we go into a playoff round getting second, because when I was looking, when they put all England's route with Tuchel from next year, I think the second team is a playoff there. So if you don't get first, they'll go into a playoff round, because I think what they were getting at with England was, well, they want to play 2 qualifiers for the World Cup.
Right.
But if they went into a playoff round, they then have to play 2 legs and then play them later. But yeah, I think Wales should be sound for second. They've got to play Iceland next Tuesday. I'd take a draw. I'd take a draw tomorrow. That'd be what I would say. I think a draw wouldn't be the end of the world for us, but yeah, we shall see. We shall see. Now we're going to go to a nostalgic element of the show. We haven't really done a lot of nostalgia on here, and it is our namesake, of course. So I asked you for some games, and we've actually picked games from like the 90s that we played. And I'm going to put, obviously, International Superstar Soccer, which I played on the SNES, but you were a Mega Drive guy with this game, weren't you?
Yes. I picked a couple of these. This had been one of them, just because at the time it was mainly the FIFA games that were on the Sega at that point, which we'd had 94 and all the rest of it. But this come along. This was Konami's sort of first big outing as a football game, and I mean, it would definitely improve when it got to Pro on the PS1, no doubt about it. But this was a real stamping of a new genre of game in football. And it was almost like Konami, they were a bit new to it, Stu. They were a bit, from that culture of Japan, and they're putting in the graphics and all the rest of it. I'm not sure they quite understood the simulation of football, but there's some of the stuff in it was actually quite innovative. They actually had like a section on it, which I used to enjoy, which was scenario mode. And you just cut in on a game and you try and basically salvage it, or there was like little tasks to do, or you'd be 2 down and you had to get it back. There's an all familiar clip there that used to come up at the end. I mean, that makes you feel good, doesn't it? You don't get that in games now. But yeah, it was certainly a morale knocker, that one, when you get that coming up. But yeah, I don't know, something just really nicer, but just different. It was very different to FIFA. Obviously, they didn't have any of the rights to the names. That was the big thing. Because I was thinking, like, am I supposed to know these names? Like, where, who are these people? But they were very close. They would do things like put a little S on the end of names, and you'd had Batties instead of Batty and stuff like that. So, but yeah, very, very good nostalgia game there for me.
Arcadey for me.
Very arcadey, yeah.
The graphics, how it is done. I was actually playing Virtua Striker 2 last month. I was in Birmingham at NQ64. So it's very, it was very, there were several games that were arcade element football games, wasn't there, back then?
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, I think it was the thing that if in terms of graphics, you looked at FIFA seemed quite small and dotty in the players. And then you saw this thing that actually sort of made you focus in on the players, because graphically it was a little bit better. The actual style and the camera angle was a bit of a nightmare, because you only got like a certain section of the pitch at any given moment, so you never knew where half your players were. But good fun at the time, and I mean, obviously they've gone on to bigger and better things, and for a while Konami did have the market, so they definitely made their stamp in the long run.
Lads are here. Haven't played it for a while, but used to play Underworld Football on my mobile, which Vinnie Jones promoted. I've not heard of it. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I'm not sure that I ever got around to playing it, but I know exactly what he's talking about with the Vinnie Jones got involved with it. But yeah, it's got a lot of good reviews, actually.
Lads, were you playing like Aussie Rules football games on the consoles? That's a question. No, it's like a separate question to what we're talking about. I'm guessing there was some Aussie Rules football games for you guys. Definitely, there must have been someone developing them, I'm sure. Yeah. Just great times. Like I say, I played it on the SNES, John.
Yeah.
I didn't play it till like '97.
Right.
When my mates moved here from Germany, and they had it on the SNES, and they used to batter me all the time when it was crap. I wasn't the best at it, if I'm honest. But yeah, great games. Just all, like you say, the whole series and going forward. I had 64 when that came out. I had 64. I had that. But like again, I used to tear my hair out with the names.
Yeah.
No licensing.
I know. It's so annoying, isn't it? When that happens.
We've said about it when we've talked about games prior, haven't we? You could actually send your memory card off years later on eBay.
Yes.
And people did all the names. Everything was done. I never did it. I always intended to send it off. But yeah, I'm going to move us along to another game, which I played on the Mega Drive, and it was Sensible Soccer. And we've spoken briefly about it in the past. But what a game, John. What a game. This, like, you can pick up and play it now. It still holds up.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like this, and this is one that's like, yeah, it's sort of one of those sort of legendary status. I think for people of our sort of genre when we were playing these games. And again, I think everyone has to remember in this day and age we have a very nice luxury of being able to just pick up a game and it looks pretty decent and it plays pretty well. But back then, you had a lot of games. It was the wild west of games back then, and it wasn't just heavily influenced by the big producers. You had a lot of people creating games, so you had a lot of football games, and sometimes it was good to have that competition. But I really liked this game. I don't think I played it as much as I probably should have done at the time. Because I was probably doing other things, but I remember friends at school. You just be talking about it for hours, and just of what you can do in this imagination. But what was it for you, Stu? Like, what did you have that on? Was that just was that on the SNES as well back then, or was I can't
my
remember?
cousins had it on the SNES, and then I
Right.
got Mega Drive.
Okay.
I think it was the pace of it, the speed of the game
Yeah.
was something that I really like. At the time, you just play it as a kid, don't you? But when you look back, it was probably the speed of it. And they did get licenses for the names. I think it was when International came out, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
But I think the main thing was me, the pace of it, the quickness. That was what I was drawn to, I think, John.
Yeah, because it had like a bit of a. I used to really like the old hockey games, the NHL ones. I think like from '94, but it always used to remind me of the flow, the quickness of that, how that used to maneuver. Very, very similar, actually.
Definitely. Again, I've got some more graphics actually, just to trigger our
let's have a look. Wow.
names here.
Yeah.
Augustina Kocha, Amaniki, Daniel Amokachi.
Yeah. Wow, Avocati, yeah.
So many names. And then like tables as well. Just League of Nations. I can remember it. Remember it, man. But take me back, John. Take me back.
Oh, mate, you
need.
I
sound like a broken record, John, but
it definitely was. It was when everything was tangible as well, and not just files. You actually got to pick this stuff up and take it home with a manual, which you don't get anymore.
Copies of games now, or do you
download? I do. No, well, no. I'm probably, to be honest with you, I'm in the same camp. I'm downloading more just because of the convenience, like I think everyone else. But there is something missing about having something tangible, and that's not just games. I feel like that with everything, even music, stuff of that nature. Like, it's very different to actually going to a shop, going in there. I don't know, reading the back of many covers of games back then, and picking it up, taking it home, putting it in. And whereas nowadays, well, you've got it in 10 seconds, haven't you? Do you know what I mean? So it's a different world. But I feel like people do miss out on just that tangible physical copy that you can have in your hand.
I love the accessibility of things. Don't get me wrong. As you're saying to the music, I love that. But then it was just something like on the weekend when you were off from school, going to the record shop, say,
sure,
for your CDs, your cassettes, and even we probably said about it before, renting the games from Blockbuster, going in,
100%,
going in there, looking through what we're gonna have, what we're gonna get, and it is missing, unfortunately, but it's just a sign of the times. But another game that you brought up, Actua Soccer, which was a series, I think. I've got a funny feeling Chris had this one. It was either this one or he had Actua Soccer 2, but you brought up Actua Soccer 3 and Ibrahim Abala, who was a very good player.
I liked him. There was actually a multitude of different covers for this game. The actual version I've got a physical copy here, if you can see just off to the side there.
They are, John.
Yeah. So there we go. There's my physical copy. And I actually played this only 2 weeks ago to have a look, because you get those moments, Stu, where nostalgia picks up. You want to go back and travel. The problem is some of these games you put in now, and you think, oh my God, how could I play that? But actually, I will say this held up very, very well. I wasn't disappointed. The only downside to it that I'd completely forgot that is on a continual loop all the way through the menu screens is Robbie Williams, Let Me Entertain You. And by the 5th time of hearing it, you've had enough. You've had enough to your heart's content of Robbie Williams, Let Me Entertain You, I can tell you. But the reason I brought that game up is because it was just one of the first ones that had this sort of season mode in it where it would include cups and stuff, and FIFA weren't doing that at the time. So it was a bit more of like a career. Also, they had licensing for like stadiums. I think they were doing stadiums before FIFA were doing them, because when I did some research, actually when actual soccer went down and they sort of weren't accompanied as much anymore by Gremlin and stuff of that nature, because you'll notice these graphics, Stu, would be very similar to the Premier Manager ones that they would use in their graphics in the highlights. But when they went down, EA came in and swooped some of those developers up to build them some games in the future. So they were definitely on the right lines of things, actual soccer. But number 2 is good as well. Number 2 and 3, very, very good games. But they did have all the names, and all of a sudden you're seeing White Hart Lane, you're seeing Goodison Park. You're like, wow, you're actually in it more. It's a little bit more immersive, especially for that time. So yeah, very, very good memories. And our chap there, Abraham Barr, back then, mate, he was one of my favourite players. Football Italia on a Sunday. Pick out Abraham Barr. Wasn't hard to spot him with that hair. That's for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Great memories, man. We've had some comments actually, John. So
yeah, let's read them.
We'll have a little look and see what people are saying. In Queensland and New South Wales, it's Lazar again. We are more big on league, whatever states. We follow Aussie rules in Australia. However, have friends who follow it, so I'm trying to get more into it. Right, okay. And then again, Lazar again, I have an interest in Aussie rules as I heard of Gaelic football and think Aussie rules is our form of Gaelic football. I used to watch the highlights of the Gaelic football.
Yeah, I think I used to watch it on Transworld Sport. I think they used to show it on there. Yeah,
you got like in-depth highlights of all the Gaelic games you did. It was brilliant.
Yeah,
it was brilliant. No, good nostalgia there, Lazar. Really good. Tagged fellow Aussies, Dave Harding, Rhys Williams to show. Think both follow Aussie rules, being based in Tasmania and South Australia. Yeah, brilliant. We're a worldwide show. We're an international show. We've got a bit of international flavour today, so it's good. And then again, Lazar again. I don't think you're going to get to sleep till about 4 o'clock at this rate. Football is getting a cult following in Australia, regardless if our team, the Socceroos, shit name, suck. Well, I heard when Terry Venables went there to manage that they were going to turn it around and they were going to do stuff, and it never happened. But I remember a friendly at West Ham. Harry Kuehl may have scored, I think.
Yeah, I remember that. It was Sven's first game, I think, of watching players. He was there for that. And
was it Rooney's first game? First cap?
Can't remember. It's something like it's when there was no Wembley and they were just going around all the stadiums playing the games, weren't they? So yeah, I think you might be right.
The Socceroos forever piss me off having a good goalie, shit defence and offensive, and lose most matches. We lose because of it. I tell you what, though, you made a good account of yourselves when you had like Tim Cahill and that. He scored that. He scored that worldie against Holland, I think it was. They had some good. They played some good stuff actually, lads.
They've had good players in the past. Lucas Neal is another one. So I used to follow Millwall a lot, and we had a couple of their players coming up. And with Kuehl and Viduka, obviously back in the heyday, were two very established Premier League players that were playing week in, week out. Everyone was ranting, going crazy about those two. So they've had good players. There's no doubt about it. Definitely produced good players.
It's jogging my memory. That friendly was February 2003. I can remember it. I can remember that massively. But yeah, even like down to like Mark Schwarzer in goal. He was around forever. He was around forever. I can remember him coming through before he went to Borough. I think he was at Stockport first. I can remember. They had some mainstays, didn't they, John? Especially in the Prem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Tim Cahill went on to do some good things with you guys as well in the end, obviously. And at one point he was playing up front towards the end of his career, which was a very odd decision. But he was good. He was very good in the air as well. So
unbelievable. One of my favourites, mate. He's up there. He's definitely most definitely. Harry and Tim are pretty good, yeah. Harry Kuehl was, especially like early on. Harry Kuehl leads when he the Liverpool. I don't know. Was it a bit
not so much. Yeah.
Was it a bit hit and miss for Liverpool? Would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
John, I was going to ask you just quickly your Spurs before we go. How are you feeling? Because I've got to ask the man. It's your club. It's your team. What's the status? What's
being a
your
Spurs fan, you feel like you're a seesaw, Stu, because one end's good, the other end's bad. So we've had some fantastic results. Your Man United, 4 goals, Aston Villa, 4 goals. We always go a goal behind, and then on the other side of it, we're playing Brighton, we're 2 up, we lose 3-2, and then obviously what happened last week, the Crystal Palace game as well. So yeah, if you look at the league table, it's just 50-50. We've had as many defeats as we have wins, and yeah, it's difficult at the moment. Cup wise, yeah, we're still in that. We've got Man United in the League Cup. Everybody's putting a lot of pressure now because of his comments about he wins something in the second season, so he's gonna have to produce something. We're not looking too shabby in the Europa, but yeah, to be honest with you, Stu, I'm kind of, yeah. It's a little bit. It's hard to take because you get a really good result, and then you want them to build on it and go into the next games. I think he's finally realised he can't play Kulusevski and Madison at the same time, and we need to only play one of them. And at the moment, Kulusevski is that guy. Madison is sitting on the bench a lot. I did hear reports that Tino Werner will be returning to RB Leipzig next month, I believe. So they've actually sped up a player that we brought in from South Korea. He's coming in next month, who plays in the same position. So I think that will be the end of Werner. And Werner, uh, he finally got that goal against Manchester City. I was there. We couldn't believe it that he'd scored, but good on him for doing it at the end, because it's been very tough for him, since he's been on loan at Spurs. But you know what? I'm still very much doing. It might sound like a broken record, but I'm still very much of the belief: don't change the manager at this point. I feel like fans today, like you'll know this as well as me, Stu, they're so very in the moment, and it's like if we lose, oh, he's out. If we win, he's the best thing since sliced bread. And you hear it on the radio all the time on Talk Sport and all stuff like this, and you're thinking like, how can it be? From one, we were one defeat. If we'd have won that game last weekend, we were third.
yeah.
And I'm pretty sure people wouldn't have been saying it's a bad season. So you have to take things. I know it's not a great result by any stretch, but at the same time, it's thin margins at the minute, and I feel like
Yeah.
at the moment there's nobody else out there that I believe in our current structure at Tottenham could do anything really that much different. If I'm completely honest.
You've been smashing teams as well. I mean, you've been putting a lot of goals in. Up there with like what Barcelona were scoring. They're putting 4 or 5 in a game. I know they lost their last league game. I know that, but yeah, Daniel Levy, obviously, Ange is there for however long, isn't he? That would never be the case, would it? That he'd be binned off, say, if it continued.
Yeah, well, he was one of the few managers since Pochettino that actually got a 4-year contract. The rest had only ever been given 2. So yeah, I do feel like he wants to finally build something back up, but it will take patience and giving him what he needs. We know that Heung-min Son is out of contract at the end of the season. They're trying to fix that. I think he's going to get a 1-year extension from what I'm reading at this point, which I think commercial reasons it makes a lot of sense as well as football at the moment. But you've got to be looking towards the future and thinking, right, we need to probably start looking who's going to replace him. We've got the young lad Mikey Moore, who's been getting a lot of grave reviews from everyone at the moment. We've been hearing about him since he was about 12. Like you've always heard about this kid that can do this amazing stuff. So hopefully, by that point he'll be in. But I think overall, Stu, it's very much like when you've got Liverpool, you've got Arsenal, and you've got Man City. It's going to be hard to get past them top 3. Top 4 is hard because Chelsea now are looking a lot better this season at the moment. So yeah, it's tough because everyone else is spending a lot of money, and you're not the only ones anymore. Whereas back in the day, you might only have 3 or 4, 3 teams doing the big spending. But now everyone's got pretty much an even playing field in a lot of ways.
Look at Brighton. I keep going on about Brighton.
Model.
I keep going on about Forest. I know I sound like a broken record, but Newcastle, they've hit a bit of form. Fulham have come back into form. But again, it's literally a point or 2 in that cluster. You can't really split anyone, can you, at the moment? They're all having little bits of form.
Yeah, and to be honest, Stephen, look at what's been happening with Manchester City. Who'd have thought it?
He's doing my head in.
4 games in a row. So it's like, if we're being honest, no, I don't think really anyone below, top three has been consistent at all. I don't think it's just Tottenham thing. I think it's an all-round thing. I think the Premier League is a tough league. That's the honest truth. And I think we forget that as fans. But this league, the reason they've generated the money and it's all evened out, and it's not like Spain, it's not like Germany where they just distribute all the money to Real Madrid, Barcelona only. Here, we're giving everyone pretty much the TV side of it an even playing field. So a club like Nottingham Forest, as you said, and Brighton, they can do things. It's not like back in the day, Stu, where like you would see, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but like Crystal Palace 20 years ago when they came up, you sort of said they got no hope, Bob hope, they're not going to do anything. Nowadays, a club can actually think, well, we've got a good as chance as anyone else if you get on a good run. But Forest, perfect example, and Brighton's model. It doesn't matter who's the manager of that club; it's run so well. I always used to think Southampton had a very good model for many years as well, but in the end, it caught up with them. But very, very similar. The
Pep's getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
Injury crisis. Yeah, like everybody else. And I normally admire Pep. It's not sour grapes, but God almighty, you're moaning about injuries. What about the rest of us? It's like you're going to have to, and to be fair to him, he's always promoted players from the academy. They've never had that issue really, where he's integrated people. All right, people are having to play more games than they should be maybe, but what his version of an injury crisis compared to everybody else's? I was just like, come on, mate.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I feel like, it's a bit sour grapes for me from him. And also, it's not like they're short of a few, Bob. They sold Alvarez for 80 million. So I think there's some cash there, even if, you know what I mean. So, I mean, he can just bring in players, replace, it's just like them bringing back Gundogan for another year, like you can't really get a better squad for me than what Manchester City have got from their disposal, I'll be honest.
I'll be moaning about that Club World Cup thing next. That'll be the next thing I can hear it a mile off. Justin Clapper, Justin Clapper. Hello, gentlemen from sunny Wisconsin, USA. Justin, when's our episode going out, mate? When's the episode going out? You got to tell me. Because we recorded that a couple of weeks ago, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. But good to hear from you. Glad you're on. And Lazar again. Just go through the last ones. Good day, Justin Clapper. Morning, Lawrence. Morning, Justin. So there we have it. There we have it, John. So John, nice. Thank you very, very much. Just again,
thank you.
As we always do, just where people can find you in terms of social media before we go, please.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, John _Scott. You'll see me there. So follow me if you want to catch anything of some videos and things of that nature. I'm actually just joining TikTok soon, so as soon as I know that, I'll let you know, Stu. I'll come on and do a plug.
I've seen the stuff on the new project, mate.
I've been doing some videos.
I enjoyed it. No, it was really good. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So on Instagram, of course, but it'd be good to see you on TikTok actually.
Yeah, will do.
That'd be really good. Thank you so much again for coming
Pleasure.
on, Scott, as always. And next week, I think it's looking likely that Chris will be back. We will have This Day in Football History. It will be back. We'll look ahead to the Premier League, of course, because it will be back and all that good stuff. And before we go, I should have done this halfway through. I keep forgetting. The Sports Social Podcast Network, over 500 partners and counting. Thank you very much to those guys. If you've got a podcast and you're looking for someone to take care of you, look after you, put your content in, get you on the audio podcast platforms, these are your guys. Drop them a message, get on email, contact me or Chris if you want. We can put you to them. They are looking for more, people doing shows and stuff like that. So please consider them if you'd like to have your content with them. That's a big one. And we will see you very, very soon for episode.
Stu, just before we go, sorry, I'm going to cut in. I'm just cutting in. Justin Clapper sent us a challenge here. I think you might have to pick up on it for us.
How about setting up a tour where a group of us from the USA, John, you, John Scott, over there, at a soccer match? what we saying, John?
Will it include a wrestling stipulation? That's the only fear I have. Is there going to be like tables and ladders in the middle of the match and stuff like that? You know what I mean? That's what we'd have to worry about, Stu, I think.
Thank you, Lazar. And then, soon, Stu, I promise life's been at it. If you need me to take it and sort it, I will sort it for you. I don't mind doing it. We'll get it out. We'll get you back. We need your content back, JC. I keep telling you this.
Just before you go as well, Stu, obviously, big fight tonight, and I know you're a boxing fan. Jake Paul, our old mate, and we used to have a particular fan that absolutely adored him. Will you be watching it? Let me hear your answer on that. It will be. Okay.
It is 4 a.m., isn't it? Allegedly.
Something crazy like that, yeah.
Are you getting it?
I don't know if I'm going to get up for it or not. I think I'm going to just see how I feel and then play it by there. But I certainly won't be sitting up all night. Let's put it that way.
Did you see Tony Bellew?
Yeah, I did. It was excellent.
Power, the great granddad. It's our humour. I'm not being no disrespect, but when we get going, especially Tony Bellew, he ain't gonna have a leg to stand on. He didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
he didn't know what to do. It did make me laugh. This is the great grandfather. This is your next opponent. Paddy Power involved, of course, the comedic aspect. But I want Tyson to win, but I'm worried. I'm worried if I'm honest. But it's 8 2-minute rounds. It's not 3-minute rounds because they're worried about.
Yeah, so it's not quite
They're worried about Tyson gassing some of the pros.
Yeah. Who knows what we're gonna get? I'm kind of in my mind that it's probably just the wrestling side of me. I'm like, are they gonna work this a little bit? Because I always felt like the Mayweather Logan Paul fight was a little bit like that. And I think Mayweather, if he wanted, he could have taken him apart. But I think he wanted to make a bit of a show, if I'm honest. But and before I go as well, Stu, worth mentioning, want to give over a massive positive feedback for your interview. I've watched the whole thing now of you and Rob Van Dam. So anyone that hasn't checked that out, Stu's Wrestling Podcast, absolutely brilliant. And one of my favourites from the past, Mr. RVD, Mr. Monday Night, Rob Van Dam, fantastic.
You know him as well. You know him well.
Always been a pleasure to be around on dealing with him our end. But back in the day, like I said, ECW, he was one of my absolute favourites, and I would always show my non-wrestling fans a match with RVD because it sort of made wrestling a little bit more cool with someone like him involved, and Bill Alfonso. Good
old Fonzie, absolutely. John, thanks for that, mate. It was an honour. It was an honour getting him on. It really was.
Well done, mate.
Really was. I thoroughly enjoyed it, as did the viewers and the listeners, which is the main thing, isn't it? Of course. But no, thank you, mate. I appreciate that. And as I said, we will see you for episode 36, which will be next Friday. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you very, very soon for Football Then and Now. Football Then and Now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.